Hi, I'm Dhera, and today I'll be showing you how to make pav buns using 5 very simple ingredients. Baking is not always about having the perfect recipe, but knowing the correct method to follow, and that's exactly what I will be talking about today. I will be talking about the recipe at the end of the video, so if you're a beginner baker who wants to learn more about baking, don't miss out on that part. Now let's get started. In a bowl, we'll take maida and add salt. Mix it well. Now we'll add in the sugar and instant yeast. Combine everything well and your dry mix is ready. The reason we mix in the salt first before adding the yeast because at this stage we don't want the yeast to directly touch the salt. I'm using instant yeast in this recipe which does not need to be activated first and can be directly added to the flour. Add half of the water and start kneading. Keep on adding water as you go. After adding in all the water and making a rough dough, I'll transfer it to a clean workstation. Knead it for a couple of minutes and then add in the butter. Incorporate all the butter in the dough. At this stage, you'll think that the dough is very messy, but you have to trust yourself and the process. Keep going until all the butter is well combined. Now after the butter is fully incorporated, we'll start tearing the dough away from our body and then bring it back. Remember that good kneading will result in a good bread. The entire process will take about 15 to 20 minutes. Remember that you have to stretch the dough away from your body and then bring it back. Now how do we figure out कि कितना knead करना है and when to stop? At this stage, I'll take a small portion of dough and do the window pane test. As you can see, my dough is still breaking, so I will continue to knead it. Anytime you are making any bread, be it sandwich bread, burger buns or pav buns, make sure to do the window pane test. Now what is the window pane test? For the window pane test, take a small portion of dough and stretch it gently. If the middle part turns translucent without breaking, your dough is done. Now we'll divide this dough into 9 equal parts. The process of kneading bread dough by hand takes about 15 to 20 minutes and we don't want to over knead our bread. So make sure to perform the window pane test after 10 minutes and if your bread dough is not done, knead for another 5 minutes and perform the window pane test again and so on. After kneading, you should not tear the dough too much. I like to cut it with a sharp knife. I'm dividing them into 9 parts of approximately 75 gram each. If you don't have a weighing scale, eyeball it into equal portions. After dividing, the next step is to neatly shape them. Flatten it out, bring it together as shown and flip it over. Now using the side of your palm, we'll roll this against the table. This will give you a neater finish. Now similarly, roll the others. You can do the same process against your palm. If you feel that your dough is getting too dry, brush some oil on the surface. On the other hand, if you feel it sticky, you can sprinkle some flour. After shaping all the buns, take your mold and brush it with oil. Now cover it with a damp muslin cloth and keep it in a warm place to let it rise. After shaping the bread dough, we have to keep this at a warm temperature to let the bread rise. Two things to keep in mind: yeast dies at a temperature of 54 degrees Celsius and above, and always cover your bread dough with a damp cloth because we don't want the top of the bread to get dry, else it will not rise. I like to cover my bread dough with a damp muslin cloth and not a very heavy kitchen towel. In summers, your bread will rise at room temperature and you won't face any problem. But at winters, what I like to do is preheat my oven at 30 degrees Celsius, Turn it off and then keep my bread dough inside to let it rise. This creates a warm temperature for your bread to help it rise. After an hour or so, the pav will double up in size. You have to be very careful at this stage and handle it with care. Gently brush the buns with milk. Bake them in a preheated oven at 190 degrees Celsius for 10 to 12 minutes. After they are out of the oven, brush them with oil and let them cool down for 20 to 25 minutes. After they have cooled down a bit, carefully remove them from the edges. Flip it over to demold and cover it with a clean kitchen cloth and leave for 30 minutes. After the buns completely cool down, make sure to cover them properly with a cling wrap or put in a plastic bag to store them. You don't need to store them in the fridge. In this recipe, I'm using salted butter in my dough, but if you want, you can also replace it with any neutral oil. Adding butter or oil makes sure that our bread is not very chewy and tough. The reason we milk wash our bread before baking is that because milk has sugar in it which caramelizes during baking, giving our breads the beautiful brown top. Oil washing is done after our bread has baked and is right out of the oven. At this stage, the oil seeps into the bread, making it softer. After your bread has cooled down, make sure to cover your bread before storing, else it will dry up. Making breads at home is easier than you think, and when you know the correct method to follow, you'll be able to make all types of breads at home, be it sandwich bread, whole wheat bread, or burger buns. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Happy baking and bye.